Hello, boys and girls. This is Chapter 3 of Judy Moody, Tooth Fairy. Okay, so they've pulled his tooth out, which sounded horrendous, and he's put his tooth under this pillow. Operation Tooth Fairy. Bedtime. Judy watched Stink put the tooth under his pillow. In no time, Stink was sawing logs. Zzz. Judy waited up for the Tooth Fairy. Up periscope. She spied on the sleeping Stink. She read 5 chapters of her book by flashlight. She played Cat's Cradle all by herself. Eiffel Tower, Witch's Broom, Cat's Whiskers for Mouse. Oh no, she fell asleep on top of her cup and saucer. When she woke up, she checked both of her glow-in-the-dark watches. After midnight, she tiptoed over and felt under Stink's pillow. His tooth was still there. No Tooth Fairy. What if the big kid 5th grade rumor was true? What if the Tooth Fairy was a no-show? It was up to her now, Judy Moody, Assistant Tooth Fairy, to the rescue. She may not have sparkly braces or fly with a superhero cape or wear glasses, but she could be the Tooth Fairy. All she had to do was put money under Stink's pillow. Judy dashed back to her room. She checked her pockets. Empty. She shook her piggy bank. Empty. She dumped out her backpack. Empty. Judy dug in her treasure box and pulled out her 1979 Susan B. Anthony $1 coin from Dad. It wasn't so shiny anymore, but it would have to do. She slowly, carefully slipped it under Stink's pillow without waking him up. And just then, Stink rolled over and, help! Her arm was stuck under the pillow. No, it wasn't. Judy couldn't reach the tooth without waking Stink. She had to give up. The next morning, Stink woke up and looked under his pillow. His tooth was gone, and in its place was fake money. Tooth Fairy, Stink hopped out of bed and stepped on something in his bare feet. Youch! His tooth? Weird. What was his tooth doing on the floor? Did the Tooth Fairy drop it as she flew out the window? Wait a minute. Stink ran downstairs to tell his family. Did the Tooth Fairy come last night? Judy asked. Mom's eyes got wide. Dad looked at Mom. Mom shook her head. Tooth Fairy? Asked Dad. We forgot to tell you, said Judy. Stink's loose tooth. It came out yesterday. Judy, bathtub, boat, Stink tried to say, but Judy held her hand over his mouth. Stink pulled her hand away. Something weird is going on. He held up his tooth. The Tooth Fairy was here, but she dropped my tooth on her way out, and all she left was this smelly old fake quarter. It's not smelly, and it's not a quarter. It's a real, not fake 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar, said Judy. $1? Said Stink. Everybody knows the going rate for a tooth is $3.70. It is? Said Mom. It is? Said Dad. And, said Stink, squinting at the coin, this looks like the Susan B. Anthony dollar that Dad gave Judy. Whoops. Okay, said Judy. It was me, okay? I heard a big fat 5th grade fib, and I was afraid the real Tooth Fairy wouldn't come, so I put my Susan B. Anthony dollar under your pillow. Judy took a bow. Assistant Tooth Fairy, at your service. You can't spy on the Tooth Fairy, Stink wailed. Nobody actually gets to see her. Mom, Dad, Judy scared the Tooth Fairy away. Oh, she'll be back, said Dad. I bet she wants that tooth. Try again tonight, said Mom. That night, Stink put the tooth under his pillow again. Operation Tooth Fairy, take 2, he said. Before he got into bed, he set a trap, a spy trap, a booby trap, a trick Dad had taught him, the old hair on the doorknob trick to catch Snoops and sisters. He pulled a strand of hair from a hairbrush, and then he set the almost invisible hair on the doorknob. If the hair fell off the doorknob, busted. Stink would know for sure that Judy had come into his room. What if the air just blows the hair off? Stink tossed and turned and gave his pillow a fluff and then a punch or 2. At last, he fell asleep. Judy crawled up on her top bunk. She bit her nails. She finger-knitted up a storm. She crossed and double-crossed her fingers. Will the real Tooth Fairy, pretty please, with sugarless gumdrops on top, show up tonight? As soon as Stink woke up, he felt under his pillow. Cha-ching! Money! Moolah! Payola! He hopped out of bed and looked all around for his tooth. He looked on the rug. He looked on the floor. He looked under his bed. His tooth was G-O-N-E, gone. He raced over to the door. The hair was still there. The trick had worked. The Tooth Fairy was not Judy Moody, Assistant Tooth Fairy, this time. He's so excited. Tooth Fairy strikes again, called Stink as he raced downstairs to tell his family. Guess what? The real Tooth Fairy came last night, and guess what else? He waved some dollar bills in the air. I got $3 whole and 70 whole cents. Wow, said Judy. Wow, said Mom and Dad. $3.70 plus one Susan B. Anthony dollar from the Assistant Tooth Fairy makes $4.70. All I need now is 30 more cents to make $5, and then Dad can buy me a lottery ticket. That dollar I gave you is from olden times, said Judy. It's from 1979, said Dad. Exactly. It's got to be worth at least 30 more cents. Yippee! Lottery ticket. Here I come, yelled Stink. Just think, I could win like $1 million. $2 million. And Stink pretended to toss money in the air. I'm rich! I'm rich! Looks like he tossed his $2.70 along with his make-believe money. What did the rich kid say to his sister, Judy asked. Bug off, asked Stink. No, he said, I'll give you half my money. Hardy har har, said Stink. And Judy started to wiggle her teeth one by one. What are you doing? Stink asked. Seeing if I have a loose tooth. Judy Moody could not wait to tell her friends the Tooth Fairy lives for real and absolute positive. Take that, 5th graders. And that's the end of Judy Moody, Tooth Fairy. So long.